What's going on, guys? It's your boy Anthony alongside, that's right, the best Big 3 account in the universe. Week in and week out, Big 3 News, aka Will, back with another edition of the Fourth Man. Crunch time, baby. Playoffs are just around the corner. We just essentially saw two more teams eliminated in week 7 due to outstanding wins, but also crushing blows. Will, my guy, I know it's been busy, but week 7, there was a lot of implications that came into play after a solid week.
Yeah, I mean, it was basically the playoffs. I mean, really,
Yeah.
it was a must-win game for every team, basically, besides triplets. But triplets didn't even clinch until they won.
Mm-hmm.
So, triplets would have needed a little bit of help to not make the playoffs. They were in just about as good of a seed as you can get, but they were lucky to take care of the business. And the two teams, Ball Hogs and Power, that lost are the two teams that were eliminated. So,
Yeah.
Other than that, we've primed ourselves to a pretty dramatic final week of the season, where again, I think now the fourth team that's lost, which is Killer 3s, now need help. Now they no longer. We always said last episode, every team controls their destiny. Now right. Killer 3s, and then who's the other one?
Ghost Ballers.
Killer 3s and Ghost Ballers.
They need a lot of help.
Do not control their own destinies now. They're gonna need a little bit of help. Anthony and I were sort of putting ourselves into a mental pretzel, trying to figure out what exactly needs to happen. Unfortunately, Ghost Ballers is gonna need all the help that they can get. I mean, that was the most lopsided loss in Big 3 history. Killer 3s. Listen, that was a good game by Killer 3s, but they just lost to a Tri-State who probably is the better team. They've played at least a lot more consistent this season, but I don't know, Anthony, if we ever would have gotten to the point where I don't know if we ever would have saw you need 6 wins to qualify for the Big 3 playoffs. We haven't seen this level of talent in the Big 3 in a while. So that just sort of shows you where the league is at right now. It's like the Western Conference.
No doubt. I felt like last year it was very tight, but teams kind of separated themselves based on how they played throughout the season. And the Big 3, it's all about point differential because of the short regular season. So we're going to get into a recap of week 7, then give you our top 4 who we think are advancing, moving on, based on essentially our predictions for week 8. Before we do all that, if you want to find the show on social media, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, every once in a blue moon, at Fourth Man Pod, at Big3 News, at @A_Siggy. If you want to watch the show, it's youtube.com/fourthmanpod. Like I said last episode, a lot of cool interviews, recapping each week in detail, and the Bahamas are coming up. So got a couple ideas in mind. I'm not going to say that they're concrete, but I definitely have a couple ideas in mind of what we could do for the Bahamas games. And for those of you tuning in on Dash Radio on the Nothing But Net channel, we appreciate you guys as always tuning in on this Saturday, getting kind of a last minute recap, but nonetheless, a recap is a recap and you're caught up to the most up-to-date speed there. So let's kind of get into it. First of all, let's kind of preface this. We only had 8 teams play this week. Teams that were essentially eliminated or like 99.9% eliminated due to like COVID and the Delta variant. The league decided to move forward without Bivouac, Enemies, Threes Company, and Aliens. Look, it was going to be a stretch for Threes Company and Aliens, who were essentially the only 2 teams who maybe had a shot. Like, we would have had to see a lot of 51-19 games for them to really make that happen. And like Will mentioned before, that was the most lopsided victory in Big 3 history. So it was going to be tough. You feel for those guys because we just love to see some of those guys play. I thought maybe some of them could have played spoiler for this weekend, but the league decided to move in a different direction, just more due to safety protocols. And in a sense, you respect that. So we did have 8 teams, which did make this race very, very exciting. We had 1 team with 5 wins coming in, and then a lot of teams that were sitting at 4 and 2. And then we had Power and Ball Hogs kind of on their last leg, sitting at 3 and 3. And let's just kind of get into the first one. Tri-State and Killer 3s kind of let us off, and this was a fun one because it was a rematch of last year's week 1 game where Killer 3s got it done in kind of extras. It was 54-52. They did it without Steven Jackson, but kind of a revamped tri-state team. They got Larry Sanders back, decided to move on with Justin Dittman over Tony Roten, which was kind of a surprise, seeing as Roten was their second round pick. And Dittman had been a little slow after a hot first game, but proved to pay dividends within the first game. Puts up 19 points, a couple of 4-pointers. Jason Richard chipped in 14 points, and they ultimately end up winning 51-37, snapping a 4-game win streak by killer threes. Were you surprised by this? Will, just the first game of the weekend going to Tri-State and to a team that we were a little low on coming into the season?
We were definitely low on them, and I'll be the first one to say that I was not expecting Tri-State to be this consistently good with the way that they were playing, because it looked like, I guess I was wrong, right? So there were really two teams that were relying heavily on their best player, on one guy, and that was Tri-State and Ball Hogs. Ball Hogs, that was Barbosa, and Tri-State, that was Jason Richardson. And we said, these teams are gonna have to learn. Someone else is gonna have to step up. And I just sort of assumed that would be Ball Hogs, but Ball Hogs has really been the team that's flamed out, while Tri-State has been the one where guys have stepped out. And I think a huge part of that is picking up Justin Dittman. I mean, you and I sat here during the combine and we talked about guys that we felt should have been drafted, and his name was absolutely at the top of that list, along with New Williams, who had an opportunity this weekend for three-headed monsters. So, we know there's a lot of politics that goes into it about who's drafted and who's not. There were a ton of names when you go back. I'm sure if you look at our mock drafts, I'm sure there's probably a ton of names on our mock drafts.
It probably looks better now.
It probably looks a lot better now. I feel like every week there's guys who picked up where I was like, I had him going in the second round. But so credit to us for that, number one. Have to get that out of the way. Absolutely. But no, Dittman's been great. And I'm not just saying that because he came on the podcast and he's an upstanding guy, but Dittman is without a doubt, he's been a bucket for them, and he's been exactly what they needed, which is just sort of an alternative scorer, because Nate Robinson has been very up and down. He's ended up, if you look at his averages, he's going to have a pretty solid season, but compared to what he was in 2018 and even 2019 when he won bench player of the year, he just hasn't been that this season. He's had a different, smaller role, and his role continues to, get a little smaller on that team, but Dittman's Dittman's been great. And Larry Sanders was looking like, a defensive player of the year candidate out there. I mean, he had 2 crazy blocks, and then he blocks Dante Green's 3 in his hand and then kicks it out to Dittman for the 4-point shot. That has to be one of the most impressive Big 3 plays I've ever seen. If Tri-State plays like that, if you're going to get the Jason Richardson that has been an MVP candidate all season long, if you're going to get Justin Dittman, who's, who was a player of the week candidate, but he's just been a bucket, and you're going to get that type of defensive performance from Larry Sanders, Tri-State can beat anybody.
Not to mention, we haven't even talked about Earl Clark, who's probably been that
second and Earl
go-to
Clark
guy.
In that entire sequence, I didn't even mention Earl Clark.
That's so crazy.
Who is looking like probably a top. Where was he drafted? I don't even remember.
He was drafted 2nd overall.
Okay, there you go, 2nd overall. So he is looking everything like that.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody can argue the 2nd overall pick going to Earl Clark.
And we talked about Larry Sanders needing more of an opportunity. This was going to be the shot. And early in the year, didn't really seem like that was necessarily, we thought, okay, you got more of an opportunity, but it's not panning out like we thought it would. And maybe even like Tri-State thought, but he was out for 3 weeks with a wrist and a rib injury. And I have to wonder, coming into the season, was that affecting him?
Yeah.
I mean, that was incredible. The way to come in and be such a defensive presence right off the bench. Not like he even started the game, got a little warm.
Against Dante Green.
Who has been
like on
talked
fire.
About last week.
Yeah.
MVP level dominant. And this team has been on fire. 4 wins in a row. And they made it look like a cakewalk in the second half. I mean, first half, Dante puts up 15, puts up 5 in the second half. And I think we have to credit a lot to Tri-State as a defensive team, but more importantly, Larry Sanders, who seemed to make a difference, who played a lot more in the second half. And then as well as Dittman, taking advantage of the situation, getting the ball back. So, kudos to Tri-State. I don't think either of us had them going to the top 5 or in the top 5. Definitely not making the Bahamas. And they made the right decision, picking Dittman over Roten, Roten's been good for them all year. That's a tough decision to make, I mean,
it's like almost like an embarrassment of riches type of thing.
Exactly.
Because Roten has been good But I
And
mean, but exactly what you said. So you make that decision, and then you're like, all right, well, let's see how this happens. And then for Denman to go out there and put up the performance that he did, I don't know if I can really
put this
criticize
in
them.
put this in perspective too. Dittman dropped 16 in his debut in Dallas, his hometown. Puts up goose egg. And then you have to make the decision. Do we keep Dittman, who we brought on, or do we let go of our second round pick? And I mean, that's like you said, embarrassment of riches, tough decision to make. It seems like it's the right one right now. And on the flip side of that, Killer Threes, who won 4 in a row, dropped this one. You have to think in their minds, they're thinking, man, if only we would have started the season better. Because now you're sitting at 4-3.
I
And
know.
you need a lot of things to happen. Luckily, I mean, you hate to have lose by double digits in this league, especially down the stretch, because point differential matters so much. But luckily, you're in striking distance. You just need help from your fellow 4-3 team, the Ghost Ballers, and you need to beat a team in a rematch against Trilogy. So, should be pretty interesting. Sets up for a fun week 8. Let's move on to Trilogy, who took on Power, and this might have been. I mean, this has got to be in the vote for game of the year. I mean,
Oh, absolutely.
What an incredible game. You're thinking, you pick Power, I pick Trilogy. I'm thinking, I'm already telling you, I'm texting you this. 0-2 on the week, not surprising. I have a losing record on the year picking games, and typical Anthony shit at this point, just picking every team that loses. And all of a sudden, Jared Jack's like, all right.
Just like, what was that?
Yeah, it's like almost you heard me, like, what was that? You thought we lost? And just goes crazy. I mean, this is a team that Power had a double-digit lead. I think 12 points maybe was the highest lead total. They end up blowing that. Really, honestly, Trilogy ends up just winning the game more than Power does lose the game. End up winning 50-47 on a tough shot by Jared Jack, a little mid-range game. Finishes with 27 points. Doosan Bullet, 24 points. Very efficient in the first half. Not enough. You didn't get it full strength. Katina Mobley, Big Baby wasn't the guy that you'd hope for, even after playing in his second game. Power is ultimately eliminated, which means they will miss the playoffs for the first time in Big 3 history.
The reign.
I mean, I know this one hurts you a little bit because I know you have a little bit of an affection for Power. I know that you kind of gravitate toward them. I know. But
I'm an unbiased source.
If you were to pick a favorite team, I would definitely guess Power might be your favorite team. I mean, what were your thoughts of this? Are you more impressed by Trilogy or more disappointed in Power and ultimately their season?
I mean, I was more disappointed in Power. We never got to see them fully healthy. I mean, even these last couple of games, they didn't have Royce White. But, and I'm not necessarily correlating the two, but ever since Doosan has gotten there in these last couple of games, and I'm not correlating this, I really don't feel there's a correlation here, but Power has been terrible closing out games. They blew a lead to Aliens, if I'm not mistaken.
That's true. I forgot about that.
They almost blew a lead to whoever it was that they were playing before.
That was Tri-State.
Tri-State.
Yeah.
I think so, right?
Yeah, I think so.
They Tri-State was coming back like a bat out of hell, and they just happened to hit a couple shots. And then they blow another crazy lead to Trilogy. They have not played like a team that we're accustomed to seeing from Nancy Lieberman. They just haven't. They haven't finished down the stretch. And to be honest with you, it's killed them. That Aliens loss is a team they had no business losing to. It was a team that was absolutely desperate. It was looking like a team that was dead in the water, and you lose to that team. I don't care if it was a miracle 4-point shot or not. They played
with more urgency.
They should not have ever been in that chance. And then you're hanging on by a thread, and you have an opportunity to beat a good Trilogy team, a team that has been touted the second best team in the league since week 2.
Yeah.
And then you lose it. So, as much as I am disappointed, I can't really sit here and say that I sympathize with them because you had your chance to win it. Yeah. Which is just, I understand. Listen, frustrating, sure, but I'm not really going to pity you too much because it's not like you sort of limped out of the season with all these injuries. You're not Ghost Ballers. Ghost Ballers, I feel bad for. Power, I really don't feel bad for. I feel bad that they all got hurt, but you still had the chance that you could have very easily been in the playoffs.
Yeah, and you get a team that had a sub 500 record, later down the stretch, later in the season, where other teams maybe face them earlier on. Can't, like you said, can't close it out. This one really hurts. I mean, being outscored 35-21 in the second half, that's rough. Especially
that's
for
really rough.
a team that needed to win. And I forgot who I was talking. It might have been Royce White who was commenting on some things
I saw that
on our
yeah.
Twitter page, and was just talking about how he didn't play half the season, which crazy to think he didn't. But
I know.
I was imagining the team from draft night and thinking
That team from draft night is insane, especially with the pickup of Darnell Jackson.
oh my gosh, exactly. Who could have filled in for, or who was filling in essentially for Big Baby until he came back and they suffered more injuries. But Coutinho, Royce White, Big Baby, Bullet, and Joe Alexander. That's a solid team.
That's a solid team.
Like on paper, that looks like a team that's easily going to the Bahamas. I can't even believe I had them as low as I did. But
well, we didn't know. I mean, we were all low on Joe Alexander. Nobody knew anything about
my question
that guy.
mark was around Bullet.
And
you
Bullet.
know, coming, when were you going to get him? How many games were you going to get of him? And
yeah,
you kind of wish that he started the season earlier, but nonetheless, it's unfortunate. You know, it's not like they're done forever, but it's been a great ride for Power, just like to make the playoffs year after year after year, win a championship, make the playoffs even though they're injured. You know, kudos to what they've been able to do. I think injuries just ultimately was their demise, and not being able to close out games. Like injuries and not being able to close out games, it's got to hurt you. And for Trilogy, they still look like the second best team, and I think more so because they were able to come back from being down so much in such a tough stretch of just mistakes, shooting. They just didn't look. They looked like they were playing for the first time together ever. And
I know, which didn't make much sense.
It was so weird.
It was very discombobulated.
They look like they didn't know each other. They're like, who the hell is this guy?
We'll talk about it more next week when we're sort of like wrapping everything up for the regular season.
Sure.
But yeah, I just hope you see some of these guys back. I'd love to see Joe Alexander back, Dusan back. Royce, I'm assuming, isn't going anywhere. Gattino, I hope.
He told you he's a loyal ass dude. So,
right.
Yeah. So, wouldn't expect him to. He is a man of his word.
So I don't know. So we shall see. It is just the same though. I would just love to see this team at full power.
100%. Me too.
No pun intended.
Wow. Didn't even catch on that. Moving on to our other team that desperately needed a win. That would be Ball Hogs, which, well, I got to give you credit here. They are in playoff contention. They do have a chance to still win 4 games. Got to give you a lot of credit here. I'm honestly, I mean, Barbosa had a hell of a season, but I'm honestly baffled that they were even in this position. But they took on 3-headed monsters. Ultimately, they also end up being eliminated, just not as early in the season as we're used to them. They end up losing 51-44. This was a pretty close game in the first half, and I feel like it kind of just like they kind of carried away. 3-headed monsters did with the game late down the stretch. But I mean, I think we have to just talk about the emergence of Reggie Evans offensively. What the hell? I mean, this dude is literally taking it from the perimeter, one-on-one ISO, dribbling between, like, you know, tween, cross, lay it up.
Well, that post you had today from Reggie Evans was awesome. I don't even like when we were talking about Mo Spates. I didn't really remember that until you said it. Or Mo Spates was like, he's in the best shape of his life. And he's correct.
Always stuck out to me for some reason, but I never actually put it together until I was like, dude, what is up with Reggie Evans? Like 26 and 10.
Oh my God.
So I made the post.
My word.
Well, Mo Spates said you'd be like, oh my God. And I was definitely after the game, I was more like, what the fuck? You know, like how is this happening? But he's looked so much better. I was going to tell you, I make those posts where, you know, best performances of the week in and week out. I don't think I've ever put 2 people from the same team in one post, you know, because Murphy had 21 points of his own, hit the game winner. Those 2 like a great tandem. And I'm just wondering, are we going to see, you know, more of what we expect from Rashard Lewis closer, you know, this week, not only this week, but if they make the playoffs, because that would ultimately, and then are we going to get Mahmoud back is another question, but that ultimately would make this team very interesting. But, you know, to win 51-44, you know, Barbosa did everything he could. He had one of the best stat lines I've ever seen in this.
You almost dropped a triple-double.
21-9, 7, and then had 3 steals on top of that.
He almost won Player of the Week losing.
I saw that. I was like, wait, how does he up there? Like, that doesn't happen too often where
I know.
a player of the week candidate.
Now, if
is
you
on a
look at
losing
that stat
team.
line, you have to.
You have to.
Um,
What do you think about New Williams though? I felt like he was kind of their guy, their defensive stopper when it came to
Yeah,
Barbosa.
he looked really good. I'm curious to see what happens with Mahmoud.
Yeah.
I really want him back. You know, as much as excited I am for New Williams, I need Mahmoud on that team. This is a team that has sort of guys have taken turns carrying them. I feel like it was Kevin Murphy in the beginning of the season. Then I feel like Rashard Lewis took over for a little bit, especially in that game versus Bivouac. And then now it's become Reggie Evans. So I feel like if that's a team where, like you said, if all guys can hit, because last week, 2 weeks ago, it was the Reggie Evans show. And Murphy was, I don't want to say Murphy was off, but I feel like he wasn't as potent of a scorer as we're used to.
I think you're right.
And then this week, it was both of them hitting. It was Murphy was a bucket and Reggie Evans was a bucket. And
they had all the points. They combined for all the points in the first half. I just want to throw that out there.
Yeah, and they beat a team where, in my opinion, Ball Hogs played. That's as good as that team's going to play.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Ball Hogs did not play a bad game by any stretch of the imagination. Jody Meeks was hitting his shots. Barbosa played great. Hawes had great defense. Will McDonald was playing good down low. But the fact that Reggie Evans is having these performances against guys like Will McDonald just sort of puts an exclamation point over what we've been seeing from him. So, you know, you're right. Listen, man, this is a dangerous team because you have 3 guys, 4 if you include Mahmoud, who have the potential to break the game, and that's Rashard Lewis, Kevin Murphy, and Reggie Evans.
Reggie Evans, I asked this question today on Instagram, but I want to ask you and get your opinion. Is this the best version of Reggie Evans we've ever seen?
Yeah, it has to be. You can't say that it's not. And it just sucks that he's not. I don't think he's going to win the rebound title because Joe Johnson, like, quietly gets a double every game.
He's like, oh, 15 rebounds? Ridiculous. Got you.
It's ridiculous that he does that. I don't know how he manages that. But no, this has to be the best version of Reggie Evans that we've seen because he's never been like, he's always been a great post defender, but he's never been like what we've seen from Larry Sanders or swatting guys. And, you know, he's never been like a lockdown post guy. So I don't even want to say like, oh, he's playing good offensively. He's the same defensively that he's ever been. But his offense, he's taken it to a completely different level.
I felt like most of his points in the past because I was actually looking at his stats today. And, you know, he had averaged a double-double before in this league in 2019. But I felt like back in 2019, while I felt like there was an improved jumper and, you know, offensively he was working on. You could definitely tell he's getting better. I still think a lot of his points came from putbacks or offensive rebounds, whatever the case may be, loose balls, an air ball, whatever it is. And this year it's just been like attack the basket. We're going to throw it into Evans in the post. I mean, that's not something that we've seen in the past. You've been seeing a couple like Dirk one-legged fadeaways.
I know. My God.
I'm putting together a highlight clip and I'm just going through some of these plays or him scoring the basket. And I'm like, wow, I don't ever remember this from Reggie Evans. He's been great. I think he's a big reason why Three-Headed Monsters is 5-2. And despite right now currently being 4th, I think a big reason why they're currently in a good position to move forward and play in the Bahamas. So
Reggie Evans. I will say this: you want a hot take?
Give it to me. If
you were to ask me the question, Will, you know, list the guys rather who you would build around in the Big 3. You know, if you had your preference of anybody, who would you build around? Number 1 would obviously be Joe Johnson, but I think at this point in time it would be a mistake if anybody but Reggie Evans was number 2.
Man, it would be tough to disagree to that. He's
because he fits the 3v3 mold perfectly. He has a history of nothing but success, except for his first season in the league when he was on that god awful Killer Threes team,
where Chauncey Billups was showing up every now and then when he felt like it.
Right, exactly. So, you know,
his work ethic. Yeah, I
is
was gonna say his
insane.
work ethic, his work regimen, however you want to phrase it, has been nuts. I mean, this dude doesn't stop working. I didn't even realize he was 41. This man looks like he's 31 or
Yeah.
closer to 31 than he does 41.
That's
I mean,
why I'm so happy for him that he's getting the recognition in these like player of the weeks. Like I'm so happy that
Yeah.
these player of the weeks have been all Joe Johnson and then Dusan and then now Reggie Evans back to back. Because to be honest with you, I feel like sometimes we overrate the flashiness a little bit. But
grit and grind. I know
the
that
grit
you're.
and
I know that
grind.
you're
I'm a
keen on
big
the
grit.
grit
I'm
and
a
grind.
big grit and grind. I'm a big, doesn't necessarily make the highlight tape, doesn't necessarily make Sports Center every night. But Reggie Evans has been consistently the best big man in this league. And this has been the year that he's becoming one of the best players in this league.
That's a good way to phrase it. And I asked a lot of people if they thought he was an MVP or an MVP candidate. I can get your take on it, but let me just
Okay.
see, what some people have said here. Earlier, when I checked this, it was 12 people yes and 3 no. Right now, it's a 72% yes. 13 people voted for yes and 5 for no.
We're just getting a lot of MVP candidates.
We have a ton of
If
really
we
good
had a
players in
time,
this league.
yeah,
That's just the only way to spin it. Great
that's
players in
the
this
only way to
league.
spin it. There's a ton of great, yeah. But I still think it's Joe Johnson.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
the conversation is who's a candidate.
Yeah, speaking of yeah, who's gonna come in second place anyways?
Yeah. Speaking of the MVP, what was the
Speaking of
score
the
of this
MVP,
next game?
MVP decided to take a week off and say, you know what, Double A, you wanna have the most points this week? Fine. You know what, Teddy, you want to be the closer to this week? Fine. We'll let
And
you
it was
do
the
all
biggest
of it.
win in league history.
The biggest 32-point win over the Ghost Followers. We won't touch on this too hard because it seems a little depressing and also demeaning to talk about this game.
I know. Well, I feel like we always sit here and like, you look at all the guys who are on Ghost Ballers, Mike, Corsley Edwards, Corsley Edwards not anymore, but Alex Scales,
Craig Smith.
Craig Smith. Those are all guys who have been on this podcast who've been lucky enough. So I'm not going to then turn around and just clown them for 10 minutes.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
It was just, it was just disappointing to see.
1-19. This game at halftime was 26-7. It was never close, unfortunately. And like I mentioned, Allen Anderson was a high man, 22 points, 6 rebounds, 5 threes. In fairness to Ghost Ballers, that dude was not missing. Joe Johnson, I did not realize actually almost dropped the triple-double himself, 14, 8, and 7. That is a wild stat line. So I guess the MVP is still going to lead the rebounding title. I was like, oh, maybe he didn't have as many rebounds. Nope, he's still at 8.
He always
and
gets a ridiculous amount of rebounds.
I thought it was
don't
cool
understand it.
that so Janaire Parvo didn't play this week. They didn't need him. But Teddy Gibson's obviously been the key reserve and the first reserve coming into the year because he was a part of the original Triplets team that won the championship last year.
I was happy to see him get some burn.
The most impressive part was like, okay, he didn't miss a shot coming in and he scores the final 8 points of the game. It's like, dude, what? Are you kidding me? You get another guy who's just like, oh, okay.
That's where you're like,
you want me to play this week?
You talk about Reggie Evans, what the fuck?
Yeah. No,
if you're like Tri-State, if you're Trilogy sitting there, if you're Steven Jackson in the locker room after that great game, watching it on the television, you're looking around and everybody, you're like, what the actual fuck is this?
You're like, okay, well, they don't have Janaire this week. I know Ghost Ballers is missing Mike Taylor. He's out for the year, unfortunately. But, they pick him another guy. Chris Johnson's a bucket. Ricky Davis is a bucket. Craig Smith, top 5 scorer last year. They might have a chance. They're like, no, you don't. We just came off a loss. We're motivated. Let's go ahead and run this up. 51-19. Like we said, we won't harp on it too much, but we do need to say that it's kind of tough sledding right now for Ghost Ballers. They went from having a plus differential to a minus 18 differential right now. Currently are on the outside looking in. And like Will said, they will need a lot of help. They're playing 3-headed monsters this week. They will need their own 51-19 win in order to get back in the mix of things, unfortunately. So it's definitely doable. It's tough right now because 3-headed monsters. So
the team that we just raved about for
the team that we were just raving
minutes.
about. So yeah, just to kind of slam some more cake in their face. We, no Mike Taylor, like we mentioned. it's tough. I mean, it really is tough right now. You feel for this team because they were 4-1 to start the year. They come off a great win in Milwaukee, lose Mike, and now they've dropped their last two. If anything, for Killer Threes, they're like, please, we need the best of you. I was a little surprised to see like Iceman refrain from starting, let alone playing Alex Scales less. I thought that they should have probably ran through Chris Johnson more. There were some things that were just a little bit off. They doubled Joe a lot. That clearly didn't work out in their favor. I mean, it's tough. I mean, what do you even to say about this game? I don't even know what to say.
The score
it's like,
speaks for itself.
the score speaks for itself. That's really all you can say. 51-19. Let's move on to week 8. Before we do that, we got essentially 6 teams that are still in the mix. Oh, we do have 6 teams. Actually, they are officially eliminated.
Yes.
So I can say that. Power and Ballhawks will play each other for the second time this year. So we'll still get to see them play. But the most important games will be 6 teams that are still in contention. Will and I have talked a lot, as you mentioned, about what needs to happen for each team in order to make it. Who are your 4 teams right now? Like we said, it could be tough, but anything is possible as we've seen in the past.
We talked about this before the show, so it's not really gonna be a surprise for you, but I have triplets at 1. I have trilogy at 2. I have 3-headed monsters at 3. I'm gonna have tri-state at 4.
Okay.
I think something insane would have to happen this week for either Killer Threes or Ghost Ballers to make it in. In a weird way, they're sort of like tied at the hip because of like the matchups, like how we were talking about. So I just think Killer Threes are, some weird stuff sometimes. And we saw it happen last season, which ended up getting 3-headed monsters in. But I just feel like with less teams, Power and Ball Hogs are basically playing each other in, a game of the already eliminated teams. So that's just less stuff that can go wrong.
Fifth place winner.
Yeah, literally.
Which we've had that in the past.
So I'm rocking with that. The only change I have from right now, the standings right now, are I have 3-headed monsters over Tri-State.
Gotcha.
Because I think Tri-State's going to lose.
Yeah, so I also think they're going to lose, but I do have a little bit of a different scenario when it comes to seeding. I do think it's going to be triplets, Tri-State, trilogy, and then 3-headed monsters. And I'll explain why. Essentially what I'm saying is triplets is at a target on their back all year long, right? Like people play their hardest against the champs because they want to prove a point. I think we'll see the same from Tri-State. I'm kind of tired of downing them week in and week out and just being wrong. So I think it's going to be kind of a close one to cap off the season. I think it's going to be one of the best games of the week. What I'm also saying too is that Killer Threes isn't going to go down without a fight. This is a different type of Killer Threes that we're seeing play Trilogy this time around. And while I've deemed Trilogy the second best team throughout the year, I do think that Killer Threes is going to win this one. Maybe not convincingly, but I think they're going to win it, keep their name in the hunt. Unfortunately for Killer Threes, I also think 3-headed monsters is going to beat Ghost Ballers. So by default, just having more wins and less losses, 3-headed monsters will get in. But with the Killer Threes win over Trilogy, I just think it's going to be, the margin right now is between Trilogy and Tri-State is 7. So I'm essentially saying like Tri-State might lose by like 3, but I could see Killer Threes winning maybe like 9.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. That's going to be my 4. We should mention this, that Killer Threes. So for Ghost Ballers, they're just going to need like kind of a miracle. Being a minus 18 differential, they're going to need to be 3-headed monsters. They're also going to need Killer Threes to lose against Trilogy. And they're going to have to beat 3-headed monsters by a lot, and Killer Threes is going to have to lose by a lot. We don't even know the mathematics behind it, because it's kind of like a 99.9% chance. Well, I don't want to say 99, but it's probably in the 90s of what they need to happen in order to get in. Like, I think that they need they would essentially need like Trilogy to win by at least 15. And then they're going to need Ghost Ballers themselves. They're going to have to win by like 20, 25 for it to be close. That's essentially what's going to have to happen. Because essentially right now, Killer Threes, at plus 13. You need them to be at least like kind of back to zero, and then Ghost Ballers needs to be just above zero. So they have to get rid of the 18 mark. So they at least have to win by a fair amount. And then for a Killer Threes, who has more of a reasonable task at hand, they need Ghost Ballers to beat Three-Headed Monsters, and they need to beat Trilogy. And then within the point differential of Three-Headed Monsters hypothetically losing and Killer Threes hypothetically winning, it needs to be more than 6, maybe 7. I'm not sure how they would do a tiebreaker with point differentials. So that's kind of the scenario there. Essentially, Three-Headed Monsters, Killer Threes, point differential is 6 points. They need to make up for it in a win over Trilogy and a Ghost Ballers win over Three-Headed Monsters. Hopefully that makes sense for everybody. Did that make sense to you? Let me ask you. Or was that just me mumbling and jumbling a lot?
No, that makes sense. That makes sense.
It's kind of hard to put it because I didn't.
What you're saying. I didn't
like write it down
something
on
that could
paper.
very realistically happen.
The Killer Threes part could definitely happen.
Yes.
The Ghost Ballers part,
Which is crazy to see a 5-3 team not make the playoffs.
That'd be
because
crazy. Have we ever seen that? 4 and 4 teams made it last year, right?
4 and 4 teams have made it. I don't think we've ever seen that. Maybe like
who were our teams last year? So we had Triplets, Killer Threes, Power, and Three-Headed Monsters.
Yeah,
Three-Headed Monsters definitely was 4 and 4.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they were under 500 coming into week 8.
Oh, they were 3 and 4.
Yeah.
Oh wow. Okay. Cool. So there you have it. Killer Threes has
because they won.
Yeah, they won.
They didn't lose and make it, and they won and make it, and so they had to have been under 500.
I didn't even know that Alien. Oh, that's true. I didn't even know that Aliens actually had a chance. They had to beat Tri-State by 7, but they ended up losing that game anyways. But
yeah,
that was a pretty wild finish.
Aliens had a shot. Aliens, that was a weird.
Give me just right off the top of your head. Give me your 3 MVPs or your MVP
MVPs. Race. I think right now it's got to be ISO
MVP
Joe.
Race.
ISO Joe. I'm gonna go ahead and say, I think Reggie Evans is up there now. Unfortunately, with the Mike Taylor incident. Unfortunately, with what did I say? Incident? I meant injury. Unfortunately, with the Mike Taylor injury.
I mean, yeah,
it was an incident, but it's not
much
really,
of an
not just more of an injury. I gotta take Mike out of top 3. And I'm honestly, it's between Dante Green and Jason Richardson.
Ooh, no Jerry Jack?
No.
No Kevin Murphy?
No.
Damn. Fair enough. I'm gonna go with ISO Joe.
Jerry Jack and Kevin Murphy.
Jerry Jack, Kevin Murphy. All right, that's a wrap, guys. No, I'm gonna go with ISO Joe. I think I'm still gonna have Dante up there, and I also think I'm gonna have Leandro Barcos up there.
Yeah, I think without the stats in front of me, I think so. But you know what? I will say though, I think if Ball Hogs end 3 and 5,
I would take it out for me.
I would take it out for me. Yeah,
it would take it out for me as well. Coming up on the second half, we're going to have Tony Criswell, who played 1 game for Bivouac and was also a tryout guy coming into the season. So we had a pretty good conversation with him. But appreciate everyone who's tuned in, and let's get to Tony Criswell. Okay, we're excited to welcome on today's show Tony Criswell, who was a part of Bivouac this past season in the Big 3, or this current season in the Big 3. Like I said before, appreciate you coming on. Excited to learn more about your journey, and
appreciate you having me. Appreciate you having me.
Yes, sir. And you and debut is just a good match. Apparently, you're just coming off a big debut with your new team. 27 points, 12 rebounds. Man, how you feeling right now after a long day?
Man, it's been a journey these last couple of weeks, man. But I'm just taking every opportunity and trying to capitalize right now. Man, just trying to capitalize.
Yes, sir, for sure. Well, it sounds like you're doing a good job of that. Obviously, it's been an exciting summer for you. You were a part of the TBT. You're one of the first ever participants in the Big 3 tryout to make a Big 3 team and do very well in it. But before we get to the Big 3 stuff, I kind of want to just talk about your basketball journey in general that led you up to that Big 3 moment. I mean, going through your college career, you went from UAB to JUCO, playing at Independent CC, which is very well known on Last Chance U for the football side of things. And then
Yeah.
you went to the University of Mizzou. How do you feel
Yeah.
like that grind to continuously find the right fit helped mold you or prepare you for your pro career right now?
Man, I mean, when I actually think about it, man, my whole basketball career, I started late by my junior year of high school, and it's been a roller coaster. It's been adversity as far as like just moving around, trying to find my niche, and then because I was a football player growing up, so basketball is it's like a real life world, so, you got to get in there with the right people. And I was just learning, like growing and learning every day. And people were just reaching out to me and asking, with me not even taking a visit out of high school and just picking UAB. People after my first year on the court, people just suggested I make a move, and I wanted to not sit out really, So I did the junior college thing, and I mean, I think it helped me, for sure helped me. I had a good list, and I think I made the right choice. Now, I was immature at the time, which, put me in the doghouse a couple times, but it all boiled down to, just keep fighting. Adversity's gonna come, and sometimes you can create your own adversity.
Well, I was just going to say
Go ahead.
that one of those opportunities that you've gotten, it's pretty crazy. First off, that you started essentially as like a sophomore, junior in high school, but then to, as you say, continue to be on the rise and everything, and even have an opportunity to play in some of the leagues you played in, but also have an opportunity in the G League. I mean, and correct me if I'm wrong, it feels like you got the chance to play, but it was more so like it was more of a chance and an opportunity. I mean, what do you take away from your G League experience, with the Westchester Knicks?
Well, that was a great experience actually, and it was a learning experience. So with Westchester, I was good. I had been training with Mike Miller, the head coach, all summer, and he actually signed me before the G League draft, which funny story, as I was actually supposed to just get drafted by the Mavericks G League. I signed with because I trusted Coach Miller before the draft, and I got out there, and the Knicks did a good job as far as personnel and youngsters, and I think they were really sold on Isaiah Hicks at the time, and Cornette, so they loved my game. I stayed in contact, but at the end of the day, it was just a decision I felt like they had to make. So with those younger guys, so I had to just respect it. And man,
I think that basketball now in today's time, it's kind of like there's been more opportunities that have been opened up, because I think they understand and respect that veteran leadership is much needed, especially with, it seems like guys kind of getting younger, and I think people try to always take the younger option, and I think teams now are realizing that doesn't always work. So I think you continue the way you're playing, you'll definitely have more opportunities like that presented to you, especially with how you do with debuts. But one thing I found super interesting about your career up to this point is that you said you were a football player early on, and you actually had the opportunity to play pro football in the CFL with the Saskatchewan Roughriders. That's wild. I was kind of digging and looking. I was like, wait, is that the same dude? Like, same dude that played basketball?
Yeah.
What was that opportunity like? And did you ever in your mind think like, hey, maybe I'll just go back to the football route and pursue that from a pro career standpoint in football?
Man, it's crazy you brought that up, man. First, that was a crazy experience, first off. But because I grew up playing quarterback, then I get out there and they put me at defensive end. It's like,
oh,
whoa.
Dang.
But man, it was the funnest stuff ever, man. Like, it was pretty much like one-on-one basketball without the ball, and I'm going against somebody that's like 380, so it was pretty fun. But man, I actually sparked some interest from the NFL, man. And then
Oh, dang.
I just, man, you know, with chasing basketball, man, it's hard to actually put time to the side because I had made a decision, man, because, all right, you the first person I'm going to tell this story to, man. So
Okay.
my GM actually, you know what I mean? My GM from the Rough Riders actually, and he was my head coach at the time. He sat me in the office when I told him I wanted my decision to go back to basketball. You know, I felt like, you know, I still had that itch. And he was completely honest with me. He said, look, man, you're 25. They haven't paid you yet. He said, how basketball works. He said, doesn't look like they're going to. He said, I'll have you in the NFL by 27. But I mean, that was two seasons he wanted me to do with him. And about 4 NFL teams had already wanted me to come to training camp. So at that point, I was just like, well, you know, so man, I still think about it, you know, but hey, man, like I said, you just live and learn, you know.
How do you feel like that experience, just getting back on the football field, especially at a pro level, has helped maybe mold your game a little bit from a basketball standpoint? You know, they talk about how some people go from football to basketball and vice versa. And there's some traits within there that they can see that stand out based on what their original sport was. Did you feel like there were some things that you took away from a pro standpoint in the CFL that helped you, you know, now in your game that maybe you didn't utilize at the beginning?
Man, to be honest, man, it kind of just brought the dog back out of me. You know what I mean?
Perfect.
It just was like, it taught me a lot of perseverance, you know, man, and like just show, you know what I mean? Just really to feel like you said, like the physicality, it just pretty much makes basketball physicality. Not saying because basketball is a real physical sport, man, you know, but football is just because, man, every snap you can, like, you know, it's something that can happen to you if you're not careful, you know. So
True.
like it's physical, man. So, you know, you just learn to be physical at all times during competition, you know, and sometimes, you know, I had to learn how to scale it down a little bit when I came back to basketball because, man, I was getting in foul trouble, man, you know. But yeah, man, it was it definitely helped bring that toughness back, you know, and that grit, you know, because, you know, the journey sometimes can you know, water down that grit and that drive a little bit, you know, with all the adversity, but that for sure put it back in there, you know.
Speaking of physicality, you got a taste of a pretty physical summer league within the Big Three. So I want to shift the conversation to that. I mean, it was kind of I know that you played one game and you played really well in it, but it was kind of more than that. You know, it was a longer journey just to get to that point. And from my perspective, it starts at the Big 3 tryout, but for you might be a little bit different. I mean, first time the league has ever offered this kind of opportunity. You were one of the first 10 guys to ever win a spot to go to Vegas and have a shot in the combine. That's a pretty wild, you know, pretty wild when you think about it in perspective. What was that whole journey for you like leading up to, let's say up to the combine?
Well, man, that journey was crazy from the beginning to, you know what I mean, to now, you know, because we ain't gonna call it the end because I expect to be playing in the Big 3 next summer, you know. Man, you know, I was just, you know, I came back from the Middle East and the league that I went to was just not professional enough during Corona for me to trust it, you know, and so, you know, I was really scrambling, you know, trying to find my, you know what I mean? Like a lot of guys that been playing the sport, you know, professionally had went through this last year. So, man, I ran into the opportunity online and I actually thought, I'm like, man, there's no way. Because, I mean, I believe when I read it, I had just paid rent and I seen it had a deadline, right? So I'm like, bro, if they close this deadline before, you know what I mean, before I get paid, I'm gonna go crazy, right? So I'm sorry, yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, you're good.
Yeah, man. So my first sign that it was kind of meant for me is I made the deadline. So after you know what I mean, after making the deadline,
Yep.
you know, which is kind of tough. We ain't gonna get into that too much, but yeah, you know, I spoke with you about that before. I get there, and you know, it's like I said, it's good competition. Actually, it was good competition. You know, and obviously, you know, we in Texas, so you know, there's always gonna be some good athletes, like you know what I mean, out there. So, man, I went through it, and the craziest thing, I was the last name called to get my ticket to Vegas. I'm talking about. Because I'm looking at the other guys that haven't got called yet. I'm like, it's like 4 or 5 other good players, you know? So who knows? And man, they called my name last. And man, I'm just, you can see the video, man. That's why I'm cheesing so hard. I mean, because I was the last name called, and you know, they surprised me. So fast forward to Vegas, you know, just being excited about the whole experience. And but you know, you kind of get reality when you see the competition you're going against and the big names in that gym at the combine. You know, it's like, yeah, you know, like I don't stand too much of a chance no matter what I do, because these guys, you know, these are some important guys in the game, you know. So you know, I'm gonna be honest, I didn't take it well that I wasn't drafted, but you know,
Fair enough.
I understood, you know. I definitely understood, you know, and respected the guys that did get picked. So from that point, man, to tell you the truth, I always kept it in conversation, you know, but I never really knew. I'm like, I always told family, like, you know, I'm expecting to leave to go international, but I mean, it's something about, I feel like I can get a call from the Big 3. So, man, I go to the TBT, and I actually was talking to Royce and Isaiah a few days before, and I had been talking to Isaiah like 20 minutes before Thomas reached out to me, and man, I got that call, man, and you know, shoot, from there, it got even more stressful. But I mean, them bringing me out was great, you know. But you know, I was initially supposed to play with Power, so I get out there, and Nancy Lieberman calls me, you know, day before the game, apologizing. She's a great woman, you know. I have the utmost respect. But you know, Big Baby ended up deciding to come play, you know, Glenn Davis.
Crazy.
So you know, they decided to yeah, man. So Thomas, you know, he said a few other teams were interested. So thank Thomas for being, you know what I mean, such a stand-up guy, man, and looking out for me, finding me that opportunity. And you know me, you know, I think everything was meant to happen like that, to be honest, you know. I was happy that it, you know what I mean, it turned out the way it did, and I got to play on a team that needed me, you know what I mean? And I could show something, you know. So
Yeah.
all in all, man, it was one of the better opportunities, man, you know.
So that's pretty crazy. So break it down for me a little
Most
bit.
definitely.
So you fly out there expecting to play with Power, have the conversations with the coach. Big Baby takes his spot back, and then you're kind of just sitting out there, kind of like a sitting duck, like, okay, like, you know, teams are interested, but which team is it going to be? Like, you don't even know who you're about to play with, you know, who's your coach is about to be. That's wild. And then Bivouac picks you up, who,
bro, I didn't eat from the time I couldn't eat from the time I got off the plane until after the game, bro. I was so stressed out, bro.
So talk to me
Man,
about,
but I wouldn't have traded that time for nothing else.
talk to me about playing
man.
with
I wouldn't have traded it for
Bivouac
nothing else.
and playing with Coach Theus, because that was a pretty interesting ride for Bivouac in general. They went from a team that I think a lot of people had playoff expectations for them coming off a pretty good year. And then a lot of injuries happened. They lose their captains, you know, I mean, it just felt like week in and week out, they were putting together a few dudes and like, hey, you never played together, but we expect you to go out there to win. I mean, talk to me about just playing with that team. And then, you know, what Coach Reggie Theus said to you. I mean, what does he say to guys where he's got a new team every week?
Man, I mean, Coach Reggie actually handled it great. You know, he just try to make me as comfortable as possible. You know, he's just like, man, play your game. You know, play the right way. You know, and let's just make it happen. But you know, we were kind of locked in after the game. We was talking about defensive schemes and stuff for the next game, even though it turned out how it did. But man, like you said, it showed that a lot of teams played together, you know, and you know, you take that for granted, you know, because you could tell, you know what I mean, teams know their advantages, you know, so it was definitely Coach Diaz definitely did the best he could in that situation, you know, most definitely.
Well, it's crazy because you seem pretty comfortable yourself. You come in, drop 19 points, 15 rebounds. You guys only lost by, I think, 6 points. I think the final was 50-44. So really, I mean, you guys were in it through the thick of things. One of the better games we saw from Bivouac. What was kind of your game plan going out? You know, I know you said you were nervous going into it, but as you step onto that court, how are you feeling, and what was your train of thought?
Man, stepping on that court was just, I mean, first, I don't want to, of course, I just wanted to not be in the way, you know, and just kind of like fit in and feel my way, you know, but I noticed early that, you know what I mean, my team kind of needed me to be aggressive, you know, so I you know what I mean, that was more of my mindset once I seen that was, you know, just be aggressive and play hard, you know, and whatever happens after that point, you know.
Yeah, definitely. And you're kind of in a crazy situation now to where, because you were one of those tryout guys, I think you, your teammate Corey, and then Devin Sweetney, who's still playing with Trilogy right now. I mean, think about it. You guys are 3 guys out of the 10 dudes that tried out, went to the combine, and ultimately played in the Big 3. That's the first time anybody's really done that. In a sense, you paved a way or blazed a trail, however you want to phrase it, for other guys who maybe didn't have a great opportunity and now can come in and create their own with hard work, perseverance, and a good performance. What would you tell guys who are thinking about giving up on the chance to play pro basketball professionally, you know, following maybe this experience that you've had going through the Big 3 tryout and ultimately earning your way to a roster spot?
Man, bet on yourself every time. And man, it's a journey, it's a marathon, you know? So man, if you really in this, I mean, you just gotta run that marathon, man. And when that time is, whenever your number called, man, you gotta be ready. And to be honest, man, the Big 3 is giving a lot of guys like myself a platform, man, to like, you know what I mean? You know what I mean? I went from, you know what I mean? Like, that's a great opportunity to the point where I got a job right after, you know?
Wow.
So like guys, I mean, I know it might seem cliche, and because, you know, the NBA's done it so long, man, these guys are, Big 3 is a loyal league, man. And then they told us, you know what I mean? They said, stay patient, even if you didn't get your name called, because there's a chance, you know? So, man, if they can trust any process, you know, I mean, I feel like, man, guys, and I'm speaking from guys in my situation, you know, 5th year, oh, you know what I mean? Even if you're younger, you know, and you facing any adversity in your career, you know, like, it's an opportunity to where they're not judging you, they judging your game, you know? They judging your game, your character in front of them, and like, it's like a second chance, you know? So for guys that's on the fence about it, and I know, man, I've talked to a few guys already, man, that's gonna take advantage of that opportunity next time it comes around for the Big 3. And man, I want to tell everybody, man, if you're on the fence and you gotta have game though. So don't think this league no joke. You know what I mean? Like, this is top notch, it's top level, you know. But man, don't believe yourself, and like I said, bet on yourself, man. Like, I was down to almost, you know what I mean, $500, and I used it, you know, and trusted the process, man. And man, the Big 3, they was honest with me, man, and they made that call, man. So, like I said, anything's possible. You know, anything's definitely possible, man. And guys should definitely look into this and take advantage of those opportunities, man. The big three.
You talk about your journey being a little bit of a marathon. Do you feel even more locked in now after having, one really, really solid game and, getting another opportunity to play professionally? Do you feel like you're even more locked in than you ever have been?
Oh yeah, man. It's I think that itch is back, you know what I mean, better than ever, really. I don't think I've you know what I mean, as far as mentally focused and you know what I mean, a healthy space. This is the best as it's been for me in my career, man. So yeah, man. I just thank the big three for even lighting that match for me, you know. So I'm gonna just take it day by day here, man, and hopefully you hear more great things coming from me, man.
No doubt, no doubt, man. Let me just ask you about, kind of your overall experience of the league, not just like playing on the court and stuff and not the traveling and, waiting to see which team
Yeah,
you get on. But outside of everything,
yeah,
I feel like a lot of people really that I've talked to enjoy the time they have, like spending time with maybe guys they played with in the past or just spending time with the guys, the overall fan experience, being able to play in a different city. I mean, what was your takeaway from just playing in the league and your experience from that weekend?
man. It was. I don't want nobody to think I'm gassing, man. I like, bro, that shit was crazy. Excuse my language, bro. It was crazy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, man, the fans. First, you get out there and actually see, like, hold on. First off, the half court is huge. Let me get that out the way. But second off, man, the fans, man, they just love, bro. You get so much love. They didn't even really know who I am. I'm signing autographs, They're trying
That's
to get
it.
some Oreo Chalmers, It's, man, it was just crazy. I mean, from that experience to, I mean, the way the big three take care of you, I mean, it's all first class, So like, man, it was just crazy, man. To be honest, man, I haven't. It was it was better than college, I haven't experienced nothing since like high major ball,
Mm-hmm.
and big three kind of top there, it's up there, man. It's definitely an experience. It's an experience for sure.
So now you're playing with the new team. What are some of your goals outside of winning? What are some of your goals, maybe individually, that you have going for yourself or that you set for yourself, kind of going into this season with your new squad?
My new goals this season mainly just staying focused, don't let don't be so up, don't be so down, just kind of stay, same level, no matter what comes your way. And to be honest, man, I think I'm blessed to be playing this sport still. And I think with me just doing that small detail, everything else will handle itself, everything else will.
For sure. And a last thing before I let you go here, can we expect another sport change? Like you about to go play like pro baseball, pro hockey, something crazy, or you think basketball for you at this point moving forward?
Oh man, look, maybe. Hey, y'all might see some, but hey, we go. Shh. Okay.
Okay.
Y'all
I
might
feel
see
that.
some tight end. Y'all might, hopefully, stuff goes good on the court where I don't have to, what I mean, listen. But hey, I'm always open ears, and y'all might see some tight end. Is all I can say.
So, that's what's up. That's what's up, man. Well, best of luck on the rest of the season. It's been a pleasure getting to learn more about your journey. And, you balled out in that big three game. So wouldn't expect nothing less but to see you back next year. Hopefully get drafted by a team this time that, maybe some of these teams in the fighting for the Bahamas, wishing they had your services right now. But, hopefully next year get drafted, have another good season, and we'll see you back in the league. But appreciate the time. And like I said, best of luck moving forward.
Man, I appreciate it too, man. I appreciate your time too, man. And hopefully, we get another chance to do this.
Yes, sir. For sure, man. All right, guys. That was our interview with Tony Criswell. Appreciate him for coming on and appreciate everyone who listened, whether it's on your preferred podcast platform you watched it on YouTube or you're able to listen to it on the Nothing But Net channel through Dash Radio. We appreciate you guys as always. Week 8 coming up this Saturday, starting at 1 p.m. Eastern, 2 games on CBS, 2 games on Triller. We appreciate everyone who tuned in. We'll be back next week with a Week 8 recap, and we'll see you guys next time.